America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism.
That's President Joe Biden last night during a primetime speech in front of the Independence Hall in the city of brotherly love. He talked about the soul of the nation and also took time to discourage and condemn any type of political violence. I think we can all get behind that, but there was a very partisan edge to what President Joe Biden had to say at last night's primetime speech. I want to hear from you now, your reaction. Number one, did you watch it? Did you listen to it? And number two, what were your thoughts? 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. But again, let's hear some excerpts of the president's speech. We'll hear also some reaction and even some pre-speech conversations that were had from the White House spokesperson, but also from a gubernatorial candidate from a different state. So again, here's some of what President Joe Biden had to say last night.
Now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness. MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path.
So, again, the president's speech talking about MAGA Republicans. He brought that up multiple times, and we'll hear a lot of reaction, of course, including from you at 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, good morning, Greg. It took him 2 days. He didn't do any kind of business for our country just to practice that speech is what I heard. But what it sounded like to me was... You
got sources telling you that's what you hear?
No, it was on the TV, the news sources. They was talking about how...
all right.
Get
to the substance of your call, please.
Well, you asked me. I was just going to tell you. The fear is what it sounded like. It sounded like desperate ranting from someone that's very afraid, fear that they know that they're is going down.
Well, listen, as far as the November election, the timing of the speech definitely is interesting, especially the political tone of the speech coming from an official White House event, which is typically not the case. But as we head into an election, people are looking at their pocketbook. The economy's got some issues. Inflation's through the roof. Gas is still high. But is that what's on minds of voters going into the election, or are they more concerned about, quote, MAGA Republicans? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
What a despicable speech. He talks about unity, yet alienates half the country. He talks about equality, yet signs bills that don't represent all Americans, provide benefits to only a few. He talks about democracy, yet signs an executive order spending $3,000 per taxpayer to forgive or transfer student loans debt to we the people and future taxpayers that aren't even born yet.
Well, and done not through Congress, as is typically done when you go to appropriate dollars to spend for something. That wasn't done in the student loan forgiveness case.
Because they know that it would never pass. That's the reality of this all, is that they bring up abortion rights. If it was truly had the 88% or 90% or whatever the nonsense they claim, that it would go through Congress, it would fly through Congress and be codified into law. If student loan was truly popular, forgiveness or transfer was truly popular, it would go through Congress in a heartbeat and it would be signed into law.
I appreciate the call. We'll get more of your reaction here at 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. Before President Biden's speech, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokesperson, was asked about some of the issues that were going to be brought up, and we already heard a lot about, quote, MAGA Republicans, but somebody asked a pointed question about is this going to be a partisan speech? Is this only going to be about a particular extremist element within a political party, or is there also going to be highlights of the far left extremists? Here's White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
And obviously, there's been a lot of focus on previous speeches, previous comments, one in Maryland the other day. Is it only on the far right that deserves to be called out, or are there elements of the far left that also deserve to be either scrutinized or lectured?
Look, I just laid out there is going to be some people who agree with him and who disagree with him, whether it's legislative initiatives or programs. That's going to happen.
So you didn't hear, though, in the speech anything about the far left extremists. People actually say that the far left extreme, like, for instance, Antifa, it's not a real organization, they'll say. But I think you go and see some various protests across the country where violence occurs, political violence occurs, and is done by what seems to be very coordinated black bloc anarchists with anti-fascist logos and insignias that they wear. But the president's speech last night, he talked about how, not everybody is bad on the Republican side. He said that ultimately it's just the MAGA Republicans, and he said that probably a couple of dozen times. Here's more from the president last night.
A mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans, are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
Republicans out there, curious your thoughts. Are you intimidated by Donald Trump and the, quote, MAGA Republicans? You can chime in at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. Now, the president did, I think, say some things a lot of people can agree with, that political violence is not warranted ever. We'll talk about that and get more of your reaction next here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. All right, we are back with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk, getting your reaction to the president's speech last night. And I just realized something. I forgot to welcome in Mike Quimby from Green Hyundai. Mike, before we get to more of the president's speech last night, definitely want to find out more about the 200 Club. You guys blasted through that. It's a huge success, but you've got a lot of trade-ins that people can find amazing deals on. Tell us about it.
You're right, Greg. And, hey, there's no better trade-in than a fresh local trade-in. A vehicle that came, from one of your neighbors. A vehicle that's been maintained continually. And you can just, for the old-fashioned way is pick up the phone and call the previous owner and ask the customer, well, has this car ever been in an accident before? How was it maintained? What kind of oil did you use? Best way to buy a pre-owned car is to validate what you're doing. And then, of course, these cars are on the money. When I say on the money, they're brought in at the lowest prices wholesale that we're able to. And then, folks, they're serviced from top to bottom with new tires, new brakes, new belt hoses. And then we slap on lifetime warranty on these cars also. Now, we've teamed up with a local credit union to get you 0%. While interest rates are rising daily, we're going to get you 0% with approved credit on the first $10,000 of your purchase. So it's a great way to buy a car, and we're ready for you. Get one of these fresh trade-ins while you can. Selection is big. And they're all on sale. And then, of course, the new Hyundais are arriving daily. Hyundai said that we're going to...
WMAY.com, 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's news and talk.
All right, back at it with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, getting your reaction to President Joe Biden's speech last night, and whether you watched it, and do you feel that he did a good job, or do you feel that it was extremely partisan? I will say it was important to say out loud that there is no place in American politics for political violence. One thing that he did was he listed several instances ranging from Charlottesville to the January 6th riots, but he did not highlight the political violence that we've seen on the left side of the political paradigm, including the violence all throughout the summer of 2020, the violence that happened in Portland, Oregon, the violence that happens outside of all kinds of different free speech rallies, or even the threatening individuals towards Supreme Court justices. All of that is political violence that must be condemned as well. So he did talk about political violence, but I don't think he went far enough to give the broad scope of all of the political violence that needs to be condemned. So a lot of questions about those who, he's pushing back on people who question outcomes of elections, saying that we can't allow people who question outcomes of elections to steal elections, which if you're claiming somebody steals an election, is that a way of questioning the outcome of an election? Listen. Anybody who was paying attention in 2016 saw the cavalcade, including the former vice president, now president, including the former Secretary of State and U.S. Senator Hillary Clinton, including a ton of talking heads questioning the legitimacy of then President Donald Trump's election, saying that Russia interfered. We had that for 4 years. So it seems, I think a lot of people feel it's disingenuous to then push back on people who question election outcomes when we had 5 years of people questioning election outcomes under former President Donald Trump's election outcome. So your thoughts on this ongoing this issue heading into the election with the president and what some are seeing as a truly partisan speech. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
The problem with established politicians, whether it be Democrats or Republicans, is most of them are too stupid to understand that Trump was elected by MAGA Democrats. Democrats voted Trump in.
Well, I think there's a lot of independents as well. And the president last night talked about the independent parties that are there and how they need to step up as well and push back on all of this. But I don't know if they're gauging this properly. The independents out there, likely has been shown elsewhere, seem to be indeed leaning more towards Republicans. You've seen a lot of people come out. Even Joe Rogan has recently said, vote Republican. He's a really independent, civil libertarian-minded individual.
Well, the problem is, too, is they only drag Biden out once in a while, whatever closet they keep him in. He's like a martinet on strings, and he says a bunch of politically correct stuff, then they hide him for another 2 weeks. I really don't take him very seriously.
Well, again, that's your perspective, and we allow people to share their perspectives here on WMAY. But here's a bit of perspective from immediately after the speech on CNN, where a reporter that was there shared some of, I guess in a way, their perspective of what's going on here with the president's speech heading into an election.
But first and foremost, John, it is political. They're trying to sort of turn the criticism and focus away from the Democratic Party of concerns about the economy, inflation, gas prices. But first and foremost, John, it is political. They're trying to sort of turn the criticism and focus away from the Democratic Party of concerns about the economy, inflation, gas prices.
So again, you got a whole bunch of other factors that are on voters' minds. Is MAGA Republicans one of those? And is this type of othering coming from the White House in an official capacity going to bring about unity, which the president has talked about in the past, or is it going to bring about and stoke more division? All of this going on while there were protesters that were protesting the president's speech last night outside of Independence Hall. So a lot of thoughts. Appreciate everybody chiming in here with Springfield's Morning.